I'd like to call to order the Bucksport Town Council meeting for Thursday, May 10th, 2018. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mark Eastman.
Here.
Paul Rad.
Here.
David Key absent. David King.
Here.
Peter Stewart.
Here.
Paul Goggin.
Here.
Robert Thomas.
Here.
Okay, item 3 is presentation of any town council recognitions. I don't believe we have any tonight. Item 4 is consider minutes of previous meetings. We have April 26th, April 5th, April 12th, and April 19th.
April
Motion
26th is not in the packet, so it would just be the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th.
Okay. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to accept as a second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for April 5th, 12th, and 19th. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Going on to item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. First one being Down East Transportation ridership for April 2018. Susan.
Yes, this is the monthly ridership for the shuttle and the cab, and the cab continues to grow in terms of use. You'll notice that it's getting the program is getting a lot more bang for its $100 a day than it was back when it wasn't getting very much usage, and the Senior Resource Committee is to be thanked for the promotion of this and the Bucksport shuttle.
Any questions? If not, we'll go on to item B, Hancock County Planning Commission, annual meeting notice and award. Susan?
Yes, the Hancock County Planning Commission's annual meeting is on Tuesday, May 22nd at 7 o'clock, and at that time there'll be a presentation to the town of Bucksport for their Visionary Award for 2018 that is being presented to Bucksport, its Community and Economic Development Program, and Heart and Soul. So we'll be attending that to receive that award.
Going on to item 6, ordinance to be considered or introduced. Peter, we have the local food sovereignty ordinance.
Yeah. Tonight is the first reading introduction of the local food sovereignty ordinance. We had the ordinance committee meeting tonight. Committee is recommending to have the first reading. We'll bring it forward for our next meeting for second reading and adoption. It's an ordinance known and cited as the local food sovereignty ordinance. It's online also, correct, Susan? It's on the town website.
Yes, the entire packet is. This is the one, as noted in the committee meeting, that was given to us by our attorney at Bernstein Shore, who had prepared one that was simple and identified what was required in Maine law, as opposed to a lot of the other language that's in many other ordinances.
Is there anybody here tonight for that? Okay, because they might have been here, but there will be a second reading and an adoption at our next meeting. So.
Okay, going on to item B, Town Code, Appendix B, Council Rules Amendment, first reading.
Yeah.
Peter.
Finally, going to make a decision on changing our committee structure. We have a new Appendix B for Council Rules that's going to establish 4 committees plus a Community Economic Development Committee. Again, this is the first reading of that, of establishing these 4 committees: Finance and Investment Committee, Services Committee, Infrastructure and Properties Committee, and Regulatory Review Committee, dropping down from 9 to 4. Again, this will be the first reading of this, and we will bring it for a second reading and introduction and council vote on our next meeting. And the assumption would be that in June we would reestablish the committee structure and put people on the committees then. So
the other items that were that are also included in Appendix B are, at the present time, there are some conflicts between council rules and the town charter in terms of meeting notification, effective dates of ordinance, and
we actually talked about moving from the second last Thursday to
changing the a request to go to make council meetings the second and fourth Thursdays instead of second and last. And then it also changes the number of consecutive regular meetings that can be missed from 6 to 3, so that this is consistent with the charter. And so those items that were charter conflicts are corrected in this, plus changing the meetings from second and last to second and fourth. Those are the other items that would be adjusted on council rules in addition to the committee structure.
Okay, and last item being proposed amendment to Appendix C, subdivision ordinance.
We'll pass on that. We've got some updates and some changes that we're going to make to the proposal that came, so we'll discuss that in the next ordinance committee meeting on the 31st, I believe.
Okay, we'll go on to item 7, discussion items for manager's clarification or direction or council discussion, input on issues. First one being ordinance committee update for 5/10/18. Do you have anything else to say on that?
Good conversation. I like it when people show up, and I think we were able to go through a lot of things, especially with property standards and council rules, all those things. So please keep showing up at the committee meetings, because that's where we can get a lot of our input. So appreciate everybody that was there. Thank you.
Okay, item B, education budget by Mr. Boothby.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Provided the council members with a packet of information, and there's a lot of spreadsheets and everything, so I'll try to sum it up as best I can. Overall, we have a year of correction. This is a significant increase. We recognize 5.3 overall increase. The driving factors in the cost this year, one of the pages I provided you shows you a breakdown of required local valuation. Take a look at it. It's like this.
Last page.
Okay. The general purpose aid is provided to us from the Maine Department of Education via legislative action, if all goes well. If you see here what's happened, that the mill rate for this year's general purpose aid increased from an 8.19 mill rate to an 8.51. That caused a significant increase in the required local contribution. Within the RSU, all told, that required a $341,466 increase. Specifically for the town of Bucksport, $182,537 of increase, and that's a required local contribution. On the other side, for the general purpose aid, we're actually going to be receiving less by $65,000. So when you put those two together, that's over a $400,000 increase in revenue just to start the budget. Okay, so that's a significant increase. The other significant increase is we have a specific population within our school community that we've seen a lot of significant needs increasing. Our special ed population has gone up from 220 students to start the year to 243 within the school year. And with that comes a significant need. Our special populations have increased in the areas of behavioral and autism spectrum. These are high needs students with high costs that are associated with them. In this current budget year, we've had a shortfall of almost $250,000 because of the increased needs that came in after the budget was passed last year. So that obviously has a significant impact into the next year's budget. Third major factor in this would be your minimum wage impact. Minimum wage law that was passed has rippled right through our hourly work agreements and contracts, and that has also had a significant impact. Overall, with the budget I'm working with the school board, we'll maintain services. The only expansion at all is an all-day kindergarten programming. We're required within 4 more years to come to an all-day 4-year-old program, the universal 4-year-old program. Currently been working in partnership with Child Family Opportunities. We have 3 classrooms, 2 funded by CFO, 1 funded by RSU 25. The proposal we have we'll be funding a fourth classroom of pre-K programming through the RSU 25 budget. Some of the offsets to that is we've had population shifts, and our bubbles have shifted in our schools. We've reduced one teacher position at the Miles Lane School and one teaching position at the middle school. We've also reorganized and proposed to reorganize our special education programming in order to effectively meet the needs of the students without increasing or controlling the increases of the professional staff. Okay. Impact to Bucksport. I handed you you've seen this spreadsheet before. I'll give you a highlighted one that shows Bucksport, shows your percentage of pupils, percentage of valuation. Another adjustment that's notable here in the funding formula, the state has gone from a 3-year average of the evaluation to a 2-year average, okay, which is different. You take that through and you follow that across with the gold, the highlighted piece of that. It shows the state contribution for the town of Bucksport is $4,466,000. The required local contribution is $3,681,000. Second page breaks it down. You follow it through again to the gold. You can see where Bucksport's comes in. It's a comparison. It'll give you the totals for this year, and then relative to the approved budget from last year. And we went to the approved budget because you remember after the budget was passed, all the assessments were sent out to the towns. The state decided they were going to put in more money. Okay, and 50% of that additional money was sent back to the towns. The other 50% was captured by the RSU. Thank goodness we had that to help offset the overrun. So the required local share portion for Bucksport is $3,681,000. That's an increase of approximately $182,000. Additional local contribution is $1,010,000. Your portion of adult education is $57,700. Total proposed for the town of Bucksport assessment of $4,749,000. Overall, it's a $262,000 increase, and it does represent a 5.84% increase. Okay. I did provide you one other piece of information. It shows you a spreadsheet of all the districts in the state of Maine. Gives you a picture of the 2016-17 per pupil subsidizable operating expenditures, including special education and career and technical education. And it does exclude major capital outlay, debt service, and federal expenditures. The reason why I present this to you, it gives you a picture of what's going on around the state. And if you get on to page 3 is where you're going to find RSU 25 schools. Our overall per pupil operating cost, that's for both elementary and secondary, for $11,299 per student. The state average is $11,859 per student. That is for FY17. That's the last year they have this information available. It's usually a 1-year lag with this. Shows that we're still operating below state average. It shows that we are still operating relative to Hancock County, below Hancock County schools. It's a piece of information for folks. So there's a lot of numbers at you very quickly. Happy to answer any questions.
What's your budget schedule, Jim, from now until the vote? Do you guys have any more?
Yep, next Tuesday night, the board will be asked to act upon a proposed budget. And at that point in time, then we'll be publicizing, sending out our documents that we usually send to the public. And the district budget meeting is May 30th at 7 o'clock at Bucksport Middle School. And then the budget validation vote would be June 12th, I believe.
Jim, what was the did you give a number of people in special ed, or was it just?
I did. You don't have it documented there, but it's 243.
243?
Yeah, and I can break down, I have the data with me, I can break it down by qualifying disability, but
That's the entire, that's not just Bucksport, that's the entire RSU, right?
That's the entire RSU. I can give you the data by town, but that's not data we tend to publicly compare.
Just, it looks like over 25%.
No, it's right around 23.
Not 20, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
23%, yeah, it's under 25%.
Which is not unusual for this district. This district has operated somewhere between 19 and 24%.
How does that compare with state averages, or do you have any figures like that?
The state would like to say they would like us to be below 17%, but we don't have per se averages across state to state. We just have their recommended levels.
When a special ed student has to be educated outside the district, does the state pay any more towards that student than?
There is reimbursement. It's called a high cost out of district placement, and there is a reimbursement to that. It's not 100%.
I didn't think it would be.
No, but like a high cost student, and we have a few of these students. I should say we have 4 of these students. It can be as high as $70,000 a year per student, and we will get back anywhere from 20 to 40% of that cost, depending on the services provided.
And is that in 2 years in arrears also, like?
Typically, it's behind. It's usually 1 year behind now. Now, in law, assuming everything gets passed at the legislature, they have a recommendation of hardship funding. So if a student shows up that you were not counting on, you can get some assistance that same year. You have to apply for that, which is a nice change in the law.
But it's not retroactive to a year or two, though.
No, it's not.
I had a higher number. Have you reduced your budget since you
Yes.
and I was going to say,
Yeah.
because the number that I had in our budget was an increase of $299,456, and
Yep.
this is an increase of $262,233, which is $37,000.
Yeah. And that's reflective of that first draft that I shared with you. We received our insurance rates for our health insurance, and we were anticipating a higher rate than we got. We actually ended up with a 2.68% increase, which is, we went 4 years in a row with either between a 9 and a 13% increase. And we've now seen those increases dropping, which is very good. Very helpful when you think about the number of people who receive health insurance within the organization. It's a significant number. So we were able to go through and reduce the budget by some of the savings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So on the first paper, the overall budget's 15 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, on the second page there, the 19 budget, 17-18, you had 138,000 in tuition.
Yes,
So our tuition students have gone down.
that is a wonderful question, very perceptive, and I have an answer for you.
I figured
Yeah.
it went down in half. but-
No, and the reason why that's reflective of the CTE funding has changed, Career and Technical Education, where we have an authorized satellite programming, our welding program, and we had 22, 23 students in that this year. A number of them were out of the district, so we would receive half of our tuition rate, high school tuition rate, which is $9,696. So 50% of that we would get paid for those students out of district taking the welding program. With the new CTE funding, the money that we would typically receive in general purpose aid, which last year we received for CTE $189,000 of support, that has now been sent to the center, which is Hancock County Technical Center, the fiscal agent being the Ellsworth School Department. But on that same page, if you will go down, and he's talking about under other revenues, monies we use to offset. Comparative from 17-18 to 18-19, the tuition, that went from 138 to 70. The difference, though, is you look at CTE reimbursement. That CTE reimbursement now, the law requires, because we have the satellite program that's approved, that we have to be reimbursed next year for our operational cost of that program this year. And so We gave up the tuition money for the students, but we're getting a reimbursement, and that's $99,500. So
Right.
if you look to that, it's actually, we're a little bit ahead of the game.
I have one more question for you. You gave us this big spreadsheet here. So
Yep.
if I go to total,
Yep,
I'm assuming that that was their overall budgets for those years? It's about in the middle of the page.
point, what page you on? Front page?
Yeah, it does, front page backwards, but right in the middle it says total. That's what their total budget was for the year? Like 16, 17?
It looks
No.
like that's a net operating cost.
No, that's a net
Okay.
operating cost, that's not your total budget.
Okay.
That's where it becomes sometimes convoluted in the conversation, because they push out so much data, depending how you look at it. I tend to use this one because it's consistent, and it shows what the operating costs are without the major capital outlay and debt service, because that changes from district to district. But what this talks about is strictly the money it takes to educate the kiddos,
Right, to include salaries and
everything.
that's what that total would be.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was.
Yeah.
You get any type of reimbursement from the state for transportation for people outside the district? I know there's like vans and stuff going everywhere
Yep.
from Bucksport High School. I don't know about at the other schools, but I see them
Yep.
constantly going from Bucksport.
We do receive some of that, if it's for special education.
Yeah.
We receive some money back. We report out at the end of the year what our costs are, and that's part of some of the multiple reports we have to do.
And that you have
And
to
that's
wait.
calculated back into our transportation operating costs,
Yeah.
which is reflected back into the general purpose aid.
And you have to wait a year to get that,
Yes.
those funds back, Phil?
Yeah,
Hey, Jim,
yes.
where are we in the great scheme of things with sudden and severe? Is that about played out, or?
The beautiful thing is the sudden and severe support that Bucksport received has worked out quite nicely. There are new valuations that are set, so it's an ongoing thing. There's no go back, there's no take back. It's ongoing.
Okay.
Now, the law has changed at least twice since we were able to receive the sudden and severe. Part of it is it upsets the apple cart when a sudden and severe situation occurs. And they were reticent about providing that. And if you remember correctly, we had a fight for that
Mm-hmm.
during that year because they had removed it from Title 20A, which is the laws governing education, but the state never removed it from Title 30. And that's where we hitched our apple cart to Title 30, which supersedes Title 20 when it comes to funding of public education. And so we were able to exploit part of that law to the benefit of the town.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council before I open it up to the public? I'm going to open it up to the public. Public have any questions for the superintendent?
Mike?
Just,
I think you have one.
just curious, what percentage of the Orland kids are not going to Bucksport High School and going somewhere else? And
Yep.
are we getting all their special ed but missing out a large percentage of their regular students?
Okay. I'll answer it slightly differently. We're receiving 73% of their high school students. Because the agreement is that they guaranteed 65%. That number has increased over time, which is a good.
Can that ever be renegotiated?
From what I'm told, that cannot be because it's set in law, and the way the law is written, we would require another private and special law to get that passed. In the current political climate, I would not anticipate that happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so as far as Part B to your question, Mike,
I heard earlier you weren't allowed to say.
Well,
I'm sorry.
it's not that I'm not allowed to say, but I don't, all children are precious and
Right,
important, so.
right, and I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, let's say the vast majority of them come to us.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Now, Orland can continue to kind of encourage all the students to come here.
And they
They're not-
have.
They're not opposed to going to 100%.
No, they have changed where they require, if you look at the state average tuition cost on the sheet that I provided to you relative to our tuition cost, There's a difference of about $1,100, where the state average is higher. So the law is written that any student that goes outside of RSU 25 that we're financially responsible for, we have to pay, RSU 25 has to pay up to the state average or our high school tuition cost, whichever is lower. So that creates a gap of about $1,100. Orland has changed their, I don't know if they call them ordinances or what they describe in their town, but they've said that if you choose to go, that becomes the family's responsibility, not the town's.
Now, does Orland get charged for the kids that are the RSU pays for? So the difference, the
Mhm.
kid leaves,
Mhm.
I mean,
We charge them.
okay, that's, yeah.
But Orland is saying they're going to pass that cost on to the parents, which is it's an effort for them to encourage more of the students to come this way, which it's understandable.
Are you still having conversations with other towns?
Whenever other towns are willing to talk with me. Okay. Last year we were politely asked not to come back. That's the best way to say it.
And where do you see your enrollment over the next 5, 10 years?
That's a big projection. I can tell you where we are right now is we're expecting that we're going to be right around that, 1,040, 1,050 number. The lowest that I can project out is we'll end up somewhere around 1,000, and beyond that becomes.
Yeah. But I mean, where we're at now in school age from K to 12, it's keeping no less than 1,000.
There's no. We're seeing actually the high school population is going to go up over the next 4 years. Our current senior class is one of the smallest classes we've had in a long time, and the incoming freshman class will be over 90. So, and our incoming, what's really important when you look at your overall totals of your school is your 12th grade going out and your kindergarten coming in. For kindergarten registration, we are already at 82. Typically, we'll pick up another 12 to 15 over the course of the summer. So we're seeing our kindergarten numbers. We're projecting our classes, and we're kind of structuring ourselves for that 75, 80 number most of the way through.
Any other questions for the superintendent from the public?
The loss of 2 full-time teachers,
Mhm.
did their monies have to be reallocated?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, whenever you have this kind of an increase, you're going to see those monies getting reallocated.
Any further questions from the council? Thank you, Mr. Boothby.
I just want to say, I will say those were natural. There was a retirement for one and a resignation from the other, so we were able to capture that, and it wasn't.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Very much.
Okay, we're going to go on to item C, 15 Central Street, property sale. Susan?
The bulk of this discussion, I'm going to move on to the 31st of May because more information is necessary to be provided to. 15 Central Street is one of the properties that the town acquired through foreclosure and put out for bid. And a person bid on it. This is a property that where for years, since 2013, the town has had no contact with the owner. It's just not been able to, was not able to reach her. And subsequent to the sale, as part of the due diligence by the person who's purchasing it, the son of the person who now is power of attorney for his mother's estate contacted the town. He didn't contact the town because of any desire to try and get the property back or any of that kind of thing. He contacted the town because his mother had a stroke and subsequent illnesses, and it was only recently that he got power of attorney and could speak on her behalf. Anyway, the long and the short of it is that this property was also an asset in an IRA, and that's the way it was set up, which has a whole lot of legal parameters. The town can still have gone through went through to do the foreclosure, but in order for the person who's purchasing it to get any kind of a title, there's more work needed to be done to clear the IRA portion of this. And it's not something that's going to cost the town money, but it is something that will take a little bit more time. And the second part of this is that given the fact that this woman has had illness and there are mitigating factors in her, she's now on very restricted means, and is that I'm going to ask the council to consider, once we settle this, to return the excess funds over and above the sale that were owed to the town to her. As I said, she's in an extremely restricted situation. Her son is now her power of attorney, but our goal is never to make a profit on somebody else's loss. The goal of the town is always to, in these matters, is to get the taxes paid and have the properties returned to that condition. And for people that have, the town has at one point done this, returned the balance of proceeds to a family in a foreclosure action you did because of the circumstances of that sale. And I'm asking you to consider doing the same with 15 Central Street, if it is settled that this clears that IRA designation from the property and would provide to the former owner the balance of that money, and the town would still be whole for what it was owed through this whole process, and that would be done. So there'll be an item on the 31st about that. If anyone has any strong objections to that, I'm working with the person who has power of attorney to try and clear up this IRA designation so that foreclosure doesn't create a problem for the person who purchased it, but also believe that it would be the right thing to do for the council to agree to return those excess proceeds to the property owner, prior property owner. Does anyone have any? If not, I'll bring it back to you on the 31st with language. Okay. Thank you.
Item D, Spirit of America Volunteers 2018. We have somebody speaking on behalf?
No, we don't. We have, this is where I need suggestions, or a suggestion for this year. The Senior Resource Committee received the Spirit of America Award. This is a program that an organization in the state does, and they have a recognition ceremony for them afterwards, but we also do that. We did Tim Emery one year, so I'm looking for suggestions for our Spirit of America Award for 2018.
We need those tonight, or would you like input?
Well, we can, if you can think about it and give me ideas before. I would like to be able to set it up so that we can do an award for that before year end, which is June 30th. So
If we can come back with
take
something
it
at the
under
next-
advisement.
Come back
Let me
with something
know.
at the next meeting, maybe?
Yep, I will put it on the agenda for that. But that's the point is to get. And if there are community members who have someone that they think would be a good person for the town to designate as a Spirit of America volunteer, then let us know, and I will put that in the mix for the council to consider.
So it was awarded to the Senior Resource Committee, but not to an individual?
It was awarded to the Senior Resource Committee as a group for their work.
And you're looking for an
I-
individual
it-
from that?
we've done it to a group and we've done it to individuals. We're an entity, how's that? An entity that can be single or plural, that represents Bucksport well in terms of volunteerism.
Okay, we'll go on to item 8, agenda items. First one being Resolve R 2018-54 to approve the purchase of a road widener.
We've talked about this a good deal, and there's a section of road that the town crew tried this on, and the purpose of this is to address the edge of pavement issues that we have, where the pavement's here and the road is down here, to prevent, number one, it's a safety issue. Number two, it's a pavement deterioration issue, and that filling those in, it will help. The widener that I'm recommending purchase of is owned by the town of Cumberland. It has less than 100 hours on it of usage and is considerably less, more than $11,000 less than a new one. And I'm recommending that we purchase this from Highway Equipment Reserve so that over the course of this summer and fall we can start to work on the many miles of road that we have that need the edges to be repaired.
Do we know why the town of Cumberland is getting rid of this?
They're not, it's not that it didn't work, they just aren't using it. It's not they're not.
I think they have a lot more paved shoulders down there, and they don't have as many miles of unpaved shoulder.
I just don't want to buy somebody's lemon, you know what I'm saying? Just
No,
It looked like in the video, it looked like it was working pretty, is that what you experienced?
that's the
when you saw
video,
that?
yeah. We did a video of it in operation so that the council could all see that in order to do that. I should post that on the Facebook page. It's pretty interesting. And Mr. Morrison was absolutely right that when they were doing that, the intent was to have the roller out there at the same time so that it wasn't the truck that was doing that, that the roller was going to. We were just didn't have enough people.
And is this the same as the new one? It's just
Yep.
3 years older?
But it, considering the number of miles of road that the town has, that where the shoulders are in bad shape, this is, you know, if we were a community, as the mayor said, that had all paved shoulders, it would be one thing, but not on the local roads, we don't.
Okay, just a second, we're gonna, so how would the council like to proceed?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve for purchase of a road widener. Anything further from the public? Yes, sir.
Yes, I have looked at that, and I'm wondering why we wouldn't run a grader in through the whole of the ditch, not just that 2 feet strip.
Well, I think there was some complaints that we had hot topped some roads last year, and we tried to do that with our equipment, and we gouged the hot top up, and there was a lot of complaints about.
That was with a front end loader rather than a grader.
Yeah.
The problem I'm seeing, and it was done out by the house, is it did 2.5 feet wide, but you've got another ditch there, so water doesn't run off, it just runs down your new section. It's got a hump from the plow wing, piling the dirt up the plow before it runs into the ditch. With the grader, you could skip that off and make it run right for the ditch. That's my only concern. It would be a better job than last time.
Jim?
I just feel it would be beneficial if some of you went out there and took a look at the job that was done, so that you can see, you know, you're talking about a lot of money just to have something that's really not doing any more than what they've already been doing.
I don't believe we have a grader. We rent a grader, right?
I think what he's talking about is the fact that the town do the work manually. That's the way it gets down to do the thing, and it's just takes a lot longer to.
The grader could cover a lot more mileage quicker. started doing the ditching the way they've done it.
There were a lot of vehicles involved with that, doing it the way with that machine,
Yes.
a lot. A lot of
So
vehicles, a lot of vehicles.
To that point, did you say we don't have a grader?
I think we rent one from Wadwell's whenever we need one.
What would it cost? How does that, we probably don't know how that compares with what we're purchasing this.
I don't have that information.
The cost for renting these kind of things, I believe Jay said it was $750
A day.
I don't know if it was day or week, but it was a significant cost, and the number of miles of road that need to be done was also the conditions.
I was thinking about the grader, if the question could be, as suggested, it's better to do it with a grader, but we don't have a grader, how much would it cost to do the roads with a grader, because we're gonna be renting versus buying?
More.
I'm guessing more, but.
I stopped by Highway after it was delivered and hooked up, and they demonstrated all the capabilities of the machine and the width of the product that it puts out, as well as the depth. They can control the speed. The width is adjustable. They actually mounted on the front end of the unit, which is small. My concern was all of the weight of the product and so forth, but it also turns out that it has wheels underneath to support all that. So there's all kinds of adjustments to compensate for whatever road they're doing.
So actually, this thing can extend out where it's almost
Can
a
extend
greater
out or
blade.
can extend back in.
It would
It's
almost-
all controllable by the operator.
It would almost go out to what you're talking about.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah.
And right at what they've done, it's going to run off the hot top on the new section, hit that berm, and run right down the new section, and never make it to the ditch.
So you're saying it's gonna create a ditch in the new section with the
Well, what
runoff, the
happens
runoff?
when they plow, their wing tips so bad that it piles dirt up, just like a snowbed.
Right.
This machine, where they did it, didn't make it out there to get that level knocked off. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna run down the new stuff, hit that, whatever you wanna call it, berm, and then run back down the road, new stuff and wash it out again over a period of time.
I think this was the first opportunity for Highway to use this equipment. It was meant mostly as the test to see if the equipment worked properly and get an idea for it, so.
But it did look to me like there was a blade that goes out further.
Yeah, it does.
So it would almost go up and take care of this berm that he's talking
It has a
about.
1 to 4 foot shoulder capability, so they can
Yeah.
extend it out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've observed the same thing that you're talking about, and I suspect that what you're saying is in reality, this piece of equipment does a wonderful job at the very edge of the road and then immediate, what do you call it, flat, before, but what happens is, we've done such a great job handling our roads in the winter, and spreading the sand and plowing the snow, whatever, that you're going fast enough that there's a berm that builds up out beyond, just before the ditch. And that's the kicker, and I don't, and I think, Paul, you're the one who said you were looking at the equipment itself. Not being there to see what kind of a rig it is, but there's gotta be some way of going beyond that edging and get that blip out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And it, it has to be done with a grader, that's fine, but I think my hunch is that piece of equipment will do it. It's just a matter of learning.
I just think that we're talking so many miles of road, and anything we can do to
Yeah.
expedite to get things, and if we have special areas that have to be addressed, then so be it. We'll get I'm sure
Yeah.
Highway will get the proper equipment and get it done.
I will say, this winter, I did see more of that extra lip being built out farther, and I think it's because the plows this winter were able to go faster and throw it farther. I think that's what's
Well, I
happening.
think some of the later storms too, everything loosened up,
I suspect.
including our driveway, so.
Yeah.
But is that lip everywhere, or does it
There's a lot
go?
of places in town, yes. And I noticed, they did the first edge of Kathleen Road with the grader, and they don't have it, and it looked like they went right along. It doesn't look like it's gonna take them as long as the grader to do it. There's some dirt gotta be filled in some places. Typically, in the past, what they always did was they pulled it out and then spread it back out.
Part of the problem is there's not enough to pull for everything because you're using, it's a salt priority and the sand and stuff that used to go off the edge of the road and
As Jay said, at one point they had to go out and pick it up. There was so much sand put down. Now
that's
there's
right.
so
And now
much
the problem is
product
just the
and
other,
salt being
the
put
other
down.
way.
Well, any place where you
Gotta
have,
get the water away, that's the kicker.
wherever you have guardrails too, that, like along Silver Lake, all those guardrails, it's built right up to the guardrail. That would all have to be dug out too. But- You got another comment?
Is there any difference in the kind of gravel that they're using for this machine, or is it will it handle just whatever they've been using normally for our?
I was told that they have different levels of product that they can use on it. Yeah, the day I went and saw it, they said they had two stockpiles of two different gravels, and it made no difference what they were gonna, the machine could handle it, and they'll adjust to whatever the conditions are.
Well, it seems at this point, it looks like they've been using Bank Run, like out by the house, it looks like Bank Run on there. You know, just kind of handle Bank Run gravel.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the
Well,
floor.
like I said, I just asked a question, unless there's an urgency that we make a decision now, it might be good to get an answer on how far this thing actually will cover, and/or, would we augment it with a grader anyway?
1 foot to 4 foot shoulder.
Yeah, I
Capability.
heard that, but I mean, does that cover the areas that we're talking about that are banked up? Do we know that specifically? And if not, can we wait? Are they gonna sell it out from under us, or can we wait a
Well,
couple of weeks to?
the difference is that this used one is available now and it's here now. We brought it up for that purpose, that if you don't act on it, and they could certainly clearly sell somebody else, and whether they would or not, I don't know the answer to that, but that would be the possibility, because next time you'd be meeting would be
Well, I guess it
the
would,
31st.
for me, it would satisfy me if I knew that we're gonna do what it takes to make sure that the water doesn't come back and erode it, even if it requires, after the machine's done, maybe doing a grader where needed. It seems like we'd be wasting time and money if it just washes back out because we didn't get those banks knocked down.
Well, even if you had to bring a grader back, you could do a lot of it like in one,
Yeah.
rent the grader for a day or two as opposed to having to keep it for several days because you're hauling gravel in all the time. I don't know, we have a motion and seconded on the floor. Anything further from the public?
That machine reaches out 4 feet, and they're using 2-inch gravel, what I've been told.
Yes, sir.
I think another thing to think about is when you're looking at the edge of the road, and this piece of equipment is designed to do a road edging. And what you end up with is a band of, I forget what I got a brain, what's going right now. I'm forgetting what that's called, that piece of dirt. But the kicker is, that what I saw that it creates is a nice, smooth transition from the sharp edge of the road to the whatever that I'm having trouble describing. And the thing is, if you don't do that, you have a real problem, and I've seen that in many places, not only in this town, but other towns, is your wheel drops off the edge of that hard, and you're in trouble. And this thing takes care of that. So in my sense, that piece of equipment is well worth your $8,000 or whatever to do that. Now, if you have to come along later and clean off some other burr that's out there a little bit farther out, then do it.
But right now, it seems to be taking care of a real dangerous situation as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. I believe it passed, didn't it? Okay, we're going to go on to item B. Resolve R 2018-55 to accept drug forfeiture funds in the amount of $8,034.
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the acceptance of forfeiture funds. Sean, do you want to say anything on this?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
It's from two different cases from a few years back.
okay. And what's your intent of doing with this money?
It's to go into the non-budget dare account that we talked about during budget time.
Okay.
For unforeseen expenditures.
Anything
For
further,
equipment.
anything further from the public on this? Council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 9, resignations, appointments, assignments, or elections. I don't believe we have anything. Item 10, approval of quitclaim deeds. We have one for Dorothy Miller, map 43, lot 11, real estate taxes for 2016-17. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the quitclaim deed for Dorothy Miller. Anything further from the public? Council?
Is this part of the tax acquired properties or is it something different?
Something different.
Okay. I didn't know if this was some of those little pieces up there that, thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item 11 is town manager's report.
Okay, Councilor Rabs has resigned from the Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition Board of Directors, and the seat is for town councilor. There's a designation on their board. Is there another councilor who wishes to take that appointment? Because we need to replace that. The marina will be opening on May 15th. The floats are in for the marina and the town dock, and the fishing dock will be installed soon. The 2018 Excellence Award for the Bucksport Fire Department from the Maine Emergency Management Agency will be presented at a ceremony at the Hall of Flags at the State House on Wednesday, May 23rd at 1 p.m. Congratulations to the department for this accomplishment. I've had a request from John Chambers for the town to agree to a refinancing for the property for which the town currently holds second position on the mortgage. According to him, it is only to change banks and the debt will not be increased. Does the council have any objection to this as long as the debt amount is not increased? This is on the Jed Prouty, the Chambers. As long as that, when he called, I said I would bring it to the council, but under the condition that no additional debt was accrued on the property for which we have a second position on the mortgage. And so I'm asking the council if you have any objection to that. If not, if that moves forward, it would need
What's the reason
signatures.
for?
He's changing banks, is what he
Okay.
said.
And he can't roll it in, he can't get us out?
No.
Okay.
We could pay us off.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Can he provide us with an appraisal of the property? Because I think
At least
when we...
refinancing, it should be, because it's been
when-
probably more than I would guess.
The paperwork necessary would need to identify property value. The debt on that is not changed from, is not increased from current
Yeah.
status, etc. No, the paperwork would all be, I just need to know if this is if there's any constraints other than making sure debt, the appraisal is appropriate and the debt doesn't increase that you weren't considered before he does.
If those things are, yeah.
I was going to say by the not increasing, he's not changing the term.
Right.
That's, yeah.
So that the town's second position isn't weakened in
Right.
any way through term or increased debt or that kind of thing. I heard from CEO Rob Piazzio of Whole Oceans early this week. He indicated that things were still on schedule and that they would be posting a monthly newsletter on their website soon to keep people informed with their progress. I received notification this week that I'd been appointed by EPA Secretary Pruitt to the Local Government Advisory Committee to the EPA, as well as the Small Community Advisory Subcommittee of that group. I was nominated for this by Senator Collins last fall. There are only 2 meetings a year, and one is via teleconference, so you don't go anywhere, and the other is in person and is a 2-day meeting. Any other information for the committee is all shared via email.
How long is the appointment?
2 years.
He may not be there. He may not be
Well, it's the Local Government Advisory Committee is, there's 20 or 22 people from around the country who serve on the committee, and regulations that impact local government, small, are run by this committee for input. It's not a high pressure, long, big time commitment, but it is when they look for input from local government that are affected by environmental regulation, they have this committee that they look to. And finally, the next public meeting for the EPA area-wide planning grant is going to be on Wednesday, June 6th. Details are being worked out about the time and location of that, but it will be Wednesday, June 6th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, set public hearings or hold public hearings and approve any licenses or permits. We do have pole location permits for Emera, 3 poles on the Millvale Road.
And would you delegate me the authority to sign those permits on your behalf?
I think we did that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the pole permits for Emera for 3 poles on the Millvale Road. Anything further from the public? Yes, sir.
Question. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to look at this before. Is this in the area where we're looking to add the internet?
This is placing. Hold on, we have pictures.
Wouldn't that be convenient?
3,833 feet southerly from River Road.
That's where it is. Okay.
It's coming in.
It's coming
Because
in.
the mirror is up there.
Yeah.
Central Main Power's on the other end of it.
Yeah, that's right about where it is.
Okay.
I'll make sure we work with that. Thank you.
So that's a good thing.
If they're flipping billboard, it is.
We don't have anything else for permits or licensing, do we? Okay, we'll go on to item 13, discussion items not on the agenda for the council. Whoop.
Do we have a vote?
No, we didn't, did we?
First and second.
We didn't have a vote, did we? All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Now we'll go on to item 13. Discussion items not on the agenda for the council or the public. We have one from the public, I guess.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephen St. Peter Jr., proud citizen of Bucksport. I had an idea for Main Street. Now, this is just me dreaming big and everything. Now, is it not true that people want a dog park in Bucksport? And, you know, it's a great spot in downtown. Right across the street, there's an empty spot, just gathering weeds and trees and stuff. And I actually came prepared with, I'd like to see, you know, a big dog park. I didn't write dog park on that, but I'd like to see like a 10-car parking lot or 20-car parking lot, and probably like small public restrooms with a informational kiosk of like what to do with your dog if it gets sick or whatever, or what have you. You know, and information like if your dog accidentally swallows a toxic bug or something like that. And I would think that, you know, if you build that dog park
wouldn't it be great to, landscape it and make it somewhere that, kids can walk around the perimeter and they can sit and enjoy a public, like a little lunch or whatever, or, just really make it look nice. And also, I also had the thought of, since the Chamber of Commerce is in that space right now, it's just temporary. Wouldn't it be cool if we could build a brand new Chamber of Commerce right there, alongside the, just to make it look amazing, to have people from far away be like, oh my God, I'd like to take my dog there, and while we're at it, we might as well grab something to eat, and while your dog is running around getting tired and stuff, you might as well eat lunch right there, So I just thought that would be a great idea to bring this to the town, because pretty soon we're going to be the new Belfast, I think. So I just thought I'd come up with the idea, and hope we can get that to the Economic Development Committee.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Chris, you could probably, but I think that was one of the Heart and Soul, come in a number of times for the Heart and Soul ideas, hasn't it? Yeah. You remember?
Do we have to sign those permits? Or?
Yeah, I did.
You already did.
I think a dog park is.
There's a lot of things in that
So
area.
that's buzzing out there, Steve, so.
Wherever those 16 different groups that met last week, they could come up with, right now, in my mind, or I think the whole town's mind, is now it's time to sort out what's possible and what can make happen. And that's the kicker, is who's out there to grab a hold of it. And the idea is that somebody needs to grab a hold of it. I had something else on my mind.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that, you caught me off guard, but that's fine.
Okay, we've got this opened up to the public for discussions. Any other discussions from the public?
I've got something to say.
Tim, come up to the front, please.
If y'all,
Can you come up to the?
if y'all ever,
Can you come up to?
you remember the...
Can you make it up to the podium, or?
I can do it here, I don't have to go to the podium.
They can't hear you.
Do you remember the Virginia...
People out here can't hear you.
You've come a long way, baby? You remember that? Or am I too old?
Too old.
Virginia Slims.
We'd like to.
You've come a long way, baby?
We'd like to have the people out on.
All right, I'll-
No, on the TV.
Chris, it's
On the TV.
All right, can you hear me?
At home.
Oh, that's why I gotta come up there?
Yeah, everybody wants to see your smiling face.
That internet connected, and I guess we are. Okay.
Everybody wants to see you.
All right. The Virginia Slims ad is that whole thing, you've come a long way, baby. And I got, my sense is this town has come a long way, baby. And, I did a letter to the editor and all that kind of stuff, so that's fine. But my heart and soul in this town is in the trails. And then some of you know that. And the first thing I want to say is you've come a long way, baby, because I was out there walking the last week or so, and there's been some work out there getting some of the blowdowns down or whatever. There's still more to be done and whatever. I ask you, have any of you been out there in the last 6 months? I'm getting a no. My sense is, I hope you'll do that, because I think that is a real thing in this town, and I think Nick down here with the Y can get a hold of that and make some things happen down there. But I've been using it for 14 years with my dog and dogs and whatever, and lady friends and whatever. But those trails, particularly those trails down in back of the highway garage, are very different than those trails that you see up around the schools. The school's easy walking. You go down on the other trails, it's a little bit tougher, but it's on a lake. And the other thing I want to call, and why I asked if any of you have been down there recently, is you've got this Hawes project going on. You go down in that trail and you go down in and take to the right, and that, I forget what it's called. It's a blue trail. You look at one map and one with the different names of it, but you will see that the work that's going on, clearing that land for this trailer park, is right up against the town land. And I see that as both positive and negative. It changes the whole attitude of that piece of property that you have there, but it also opens up all kinds of access. Access for them to be able to come into our property, and also perhaps access to help clear and get at the stuff that we need to maintain. So I say to you, take a moment, go down there and look at it. And I'd be happy to walk it with any of you. I'm getting a little old and gray myself and lose my breath, but I think it's worth doing, and I think that's a real asset. And that's that whole future mindset. We need to be thinking ahead. All right, next thing, there's a lot of good stuff going on in this town. I mean, I drove up around the industrial park today. There's a lot of cleaning up going there. I've seen the road equipment going around cleaning up the sand from the winter. You need to pat yourselves on the back. There's a lot of good stuff going on in this town. And we get tied up in, what's not going right. And we need to say, by God, I've done it okay. And we stub our toe periodically. It's fine to stub your toe and make a few mistakes. And the last thing I want to just kind of say is, you got a great lady here as a town manager. And I hear she's looking for a house. And I hope you all help her find a house, because we need her to move into town.
Thank you.
Enough said.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Any other discussion items from the public? Discussion items from the council?
Just a question, and I'm sure Paul can answer this. I was reading the article about probably all saw it, the Colby College, Waterville downtown Wi-Fi thing, and just wondered where we are on our internet, and if we've considered the possibility of downtown Wi-Fi, what the cost is. I just thought that was a pretty special thing.
My simple answer to go even further is we're having a broadband meeting shortly.
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yes, the grant was submitted in time for the projects. We had a switchover in IT through the town, as you know, and there were plans to do downtown and waterfront, but through the switch and the timing of the grant, it didn't make this round. So we could still look at it. We looked at the Wi-Fi, and yeah, I saw that.
Is it an expense? It must be a really expensive thing to have it so that you can walk anywhere on Main Street and
well, for the waterfront now, we're going to go back to Spectrum, Time Warner Cable, as opposed to the previous IT fellow had some ideas that weren't as secure as what a Spectrum solution would be. And also, since that time, there has been some additional comments made to the requirements for seniors aging in place. That now there's telemetry. It's not telemetry anymore. It's being able to Skype and have people use standard technology that's out there to take a look at medical issues, doctor visits, etc. That's been incorporated into the spec. I misspoken, or is that pretty close?
That's correct. That's why we're meeting this Thursday, to add that. There's 4 areas: the senior center, the Bucksport Square Apartments, Gardner Commons, and the 4th one escapes me right now. I apologize for figuring out a way that we make affordable internet in those areas for those seniors that are aging in place. And to further on your question, with the internet for the downtown and the waterfront, that's what I've been discussing with Mr. Morrill, who's videotaping this evening. And once we get online with the marina, which is currently down, we'll start looking at some options for down there as well.
Yeah, it's called part of this broadband grant is in-home technologies. It has to do with long-term institutional care, and they're predicting that back in 2015 it was up around 65%, but by 2020 it'll drop to about 20%. And they're talking about telemedicine being adopted across Maine. The average cost of a nursing home is about $90,000 a year. If you stay in home, it can actually drop to about $5,000 a year with simple off-the-shelf technology like cameras, Skype, and so forth. And then you get involved with home visits, transportation help, and so forth that we're already working on. And so that's the new piece that's been added to the broadband grant.
Thank you. Any other discussion items from the council? If not, we'll go on to item 14, upcoming public hearing designated topic for committee assignments, scheduling of committee meetings, schedule an ordinance committee meeting. Peter.
Okay. A lot to go over, so maybe 5 o'clock again, because we didn't get through everything we had on today's.
May 31st?
Sure. Pizza?
Okay, item 15 is budget review.
I don't think we need any other,
What's that?
we don't need any other committee meetings, do we? And at that point, when we decide on the second one, we can set the new committees and go forward, so.
Yeah, the only other, everything you've got's an ordinance. You don't have any other things.
Okay, we're going to go on to the budget review. First one being community and social agency funding review.
Prior to, at your next council meeting, I'll be putting forward the budget that you will consider for referral to public hearing. And so traditionally, before that happens, you go through the list of community and social agencies, which are the items in the budget that I don't recommend to you, that I simply pass through the request to the council, and the council decides on these items. You determine those so that I know what to include in the budget for the next, for our next meeting, for the budget that would be referred out for public hearing. So you have the list that was provided, the list of what all the agencies requested. You usually go down through and decide how you want to fund them.
Okay, I'm going to kind of open this up with some of my thoughts. I think it's time that we take a closer look at how we fund community and social agencies. We have one request this year for $20,000 for funding a executive director of the Main Street Group. We've got a request from the Bucksport Healthy Communities for a similar amount of money, again, to hire a director. I'm getting to the point where I feel that, maybe it's not time for the taxpayers to be paying wages and benefits to nonprofit employees. If they are going to receive wages and benefits from the town, they should be town employees, so they can be actually some accountability on hours, what their projects are being worked on. Handing over a blank check for wages and salaries, I'm not in favor of. I would prefer setting up some type of a fund where tax dollars are put into this fund, and it's controlled under our economic development director. We'd still provide programs and services to these organizations, but they would have to come through the economic development director, and this fund of money that would be pooled, I would recommend that we use the funds from the sale of the Old Town office to basically start this fund, and then year to year after that, the town would decide if they wanted to put additional tax money into this fund. But I think we need to take a look at that. Again, taxpayers shouldn't be funding salaries and wages, benefits for nonprofit organizations. But that's my opinion. I'll open it up to anybody else.
Are you talking about every agency, all the money for all the agencies?
No. I would like to make a recommendation to send this to the Finance Committee and look at how they want to deal with that. But the main thing being wages and benefits to nonprofits should be exempt from this fund.
Excuse
Are-
me.
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking for Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities, we're not looking for you to fund anyone. No hiring. We asked for the funds to maintain our office so that we could have a telephone to answer questions from the community members, where they could find resources, what's available, our CARE program, which gives transportation to medical appointments, etc. So please,
Okay.
we're not asking for funding for an employee, if you will, not at all. And in the meantime, we've had our treasurer manage to salvage the funds that were hanging because in October they weren't asked for an extension. It was not. We now have that extension, so the consultant will be paid out of the funds that are available now from that. We're simply asking for an office to maintain it, and I believe that we will then, when we finish with our consultant, be able to be seeking grants again to sustain us. But no funding for an employee. That is not what we're asking for. I did want to clarify that. The other thing is that Paul Ratz has been an excellent addition to our board of directors. He's just been wonderful, and I know his time is at a premium. But I hope someone else would consider coming on to our board. I know that passed today rather quickly and no one volunteered. But it's very important that we have someone from the council reporting back to you specifically and helping us to make decisions on where we go forward. But for 20 years now, the town has been very supportive of our group. And it really is not for an employee. Please don't confuse that issue at all. We want to be available to people in this community as we have been for 20 years. And more insight is fine. We welcome and encourage that. Thank you, David.
You could petition, if we decided to create this fund, you could petition through the Economic Development Director for programs and services. And you could still get that funding through that.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
John Paul Milan, Town of Bucksport. You know, it's been printed in the paper, it's been said tonight that what Main Street is asking for is $20,000 to fund an executive coordinator. Just like was just spoken, that's not true. We're asking for money for the program. 1/3 of the program is roughly the $20,000 that we're asking for. We get grants, we have fundraisers, we have events that brings in the other 2/3. So you could say, well, if the executive director is getting $20,000, that's what we're funding. What you're funding is the Main Street program and not the executive director. So I think that has to be, I'm not sure why you feel that way. It's that's not the way the request was written. The request was written for the Main Street program. So I'm going to make that clear. I don't know if this is the time to further explain why we feel Main Street program is a good program and should be funded. But I will say we would welcome the opportunity that we, down the road, that it becomes part of the economic development, and that we seek to get funding from the economic development. I think what I just heard, though, was that would be down the road. That wouldn't be something that would be in place for us for this year. Like I said, I can expound more about the values of the Main Street program and why vibrant downtown is a good investment for the town of Bucksport. That one of the heart and soul value statements specifically refers to vibrant downtown. Roughly 35% of the ideas generated through the heart and soul process specifically refer to the downtown and their vital downtown. And there are ideas that some of them that Main Street has adopted to champion, and a lot of other groups have adopted too. So the importance of a vibrant downtown is apparent by what the citizens of Bucksport asked for through the heart and soul process. Also through the DAP process, a vibrant downtown was the highest thing that people said they thought ought to happen in revitalization of Bucksport. So.
And I don't think the mayor was saying that we don't want the program. I think he was saying that the $20,000 the town is willing to put up is allocated through what you need it for. If you are saying that you have a $60,000 budget and $40,000 of that you already have, and you're asking for 20 for us, correct?
Yes.
And I think what his proposal is that 20,000 is doled out as needed for services rendered, and making sure that it is put into those programs and not used for wages is, I think, what.
But how would you differentiate that, like with the chamber? How would that be any
I was
different?
going to say, I totally disagree. I wouldn't support that. I think you evaluate the programs based on the merits and the goals and the reports to us. You don't try to figure out whether they're spending any money on a temporary person or what. It's the merits of the program. They meet it or they don't. We make a decision on whether the program is a good program or not, and whether it meets whatever requirements we put on it for reporting and for milestones and those things. But I think to try to decide, I mean, I've been involved not nearly as much as I would have liked to with an organization called Heart and Soul this year, and I've seen an incredible amount of people do an incredible amount of work. They couldn't have probably done as much as without the full-time person that was there. And people that these groups that get together, things that they do, they don't happen with just volunteers all the time. Sometimes they do. Sometimes you need a paid person. And I don't think either we're going to give the money to these groups or not, but I don't think we should be dictating whether to spend it on a temporary person or a part-time person or a full-time person to achieve whatever their goals. That's just mine.
Go ahead, Paul.
Now, I agree wholeheartedly that we shouldn't be paying a salary, okay? You're telling me it's not a salary. The mayor says that he wants a fund that goes out to these organizations. It's not going to dictate, what event it pays for. It does dictate, maybe it doesn't pay for a salary. I guess, we have employees and, I look down through this and all of the social agencies. We got a club that we gave $1,500 to last year, asking for $26,800 this year. That's a pretty large increase. Everyone here, over half of everyone is looking for substantial increases. I'm not saying you're asking for an increase. And I think your program's great. I think it's done great things. I think we get in a hard place if we're paying salaries. And having a middle person with the economic developer that, not say authorizers or what have you.
He's a funnel point.
Yeah, he's the funnel point. Not to say that $20,000 you won't get this year, or that's not to say it, but the town will know what it's for.
I support I support what's been said so far. I believe I come from an environment that every year changes, and every year put forth a plan, bring the plan forward, and then we'll decide what the funding should be. Since the day I was elected into this seat here in the chamber, I have believed in supporting Heart and Soul, Main Street, Bucksport, and so forth. Main Street, Bucksport, Heart and Soul has advanced to their fourth stage of, stewardship, ownership, made decisions about what's viable, what's real to go forward with. We paid $20,000 to be used as needed, but there was an end point. And that's why I fall over here to let's come with a plan. I like the idea of funneling that plan through the economic developer. And on a given year, maybe you'll get 20,000, maybe you'll get 25,000, maybe you'll get 5. It'll depend how much we have, but I'd like to see the plan. Okay? You brought up I don't know if we're going to go through these individually, but I see others in here that along the lines of what Councilman Dobbin said over there. We've got a request in here going from 1,500 up to 25,000. I'm not happy with the Chamber's request. I think that should be coming down, and not 9,000, but maybe this year we go to 5. The reason being that the areas served, Bucksport, Verona Island, Orland, Castine, Dedham, Searsport, Stockton Springs, Prospect, and Winterport. The person that came in here and asked for the money said, when I asked that question in the last town council meeting, was, well, we get the money from you, we get $1,000 from somebody else, and then someone contributes from another town $150. It's all falling back on the shoulders of Bucksport. I mean, this has just got to stop. I think, if there's more towns coming on board, then let them start taking care of things. When we get to address the Bucksport Bay Healthy Community Coalition, by population, Bucksport owns 59%, Prospect 8%, Verona Island 6%, Orland 27%. Bucksport has given $15,000 in the past. Now it's up to $20,000. Prospect contributes 0. Verona Island 0. Orland 20%, 7% of the population. It's used to be 500. It might be going to 800. I mean, we've got to stop. That's just my 2 cents. It's got to stop. We've got to get these other towns engaged. Thank you for listening, but I really like the idea. And like I said, if it comes to the point that $25,000 is going to be, then let's go with the 25. But I want to see a plan. And if it turns out that you can get by with 5, okay. But I think every year we should take a look at
But I think we do.
What we need.
I think we do. We get every year they get the goals for the year. At least we've heard it from Main Street. I know we had it from Heart and Soul. Some of the other ones, the smaller ones, we don't. And maybe if we want more from them, we can certainly do that. And again, I don't have any issue with evaluating each one each year and deciding what we want to do. I just don't think we should be in the middle if we're going to give somebody $5,000 and saying, well, you can't use it on paying anybody to come in and work for $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000. Each group is different. Some groups, the volunteers, they're able to do maybe the way you do things. Other groups may need somebody to tie things together to make it work. And they may need somebody to step up and be paid to do that. But why do we care if we think it's a program that merits the money? Why do we care if they spend $3,000 on salaries and the rest on their programs?
Yeah, you got to look at the overall picture of what they're doing.
If they produce what we think is valuable, I just don't think I think we're splitting hairs when we get to that point.
I do agree with what Paul said earlier, though, that any group that's going to make a request should be present.
Yeah.
And that should probably be in the application next year, that
We've
those
got
that aren't
over half
present.
of these, no one showed, they just sent a request to the town manager.
But if we put on that request form that people that don't show up will not be considered.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Mike?
Mike Ormsby, Bucksport. I spent 9 years on the council, and it's tough going over all these programs people want some money for, because you want to support everything. But you got to remember you're using taxpayer money, and that I believe there has to be some oversight. I think we've been taken advantage of in the past, and not saying we are now, but the amounts that people are asking for are getting quite up there. And agree that probably some of it is going to pay salaries of some sort. Somebody to direct it, to run it, those are the ones that collect money. So I don't see anything wrong with what the mayor suggested in having oversight. And the perfect place for that oversight is the economic development. So I just want to express my support.
But that's pulling back. I mean, some of these agencies don't apply to that, but some do.
Yeah, some do.
The ones that do.
You make it a certain amount, anything over $3,000.
Or just the nature of your mission would
right.
put you in that category.
Yep, yep. I think it's a really good idea, and I think Rich is a great guy to handle it. So, thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
Jim Morrison, East Bucksport. I brought this up originally because I looked at it in a different vein than what's being discussed here. And the wording in the request was, how were you going to use the money? And it was to offset the cost of a director, a part-time director. And under the heading where it said, if you don't get this money, what will happen? What will be the result? And the result was that they would have to not have the assistant director. And that's what it was specifically stated they wanted it for that purpose. And that's all my problem was originally. And I agree with what you're trying to do.
But again, I got to ask, why is that relevant? Whether they have a person that's running the program or not, why is it relevant?
Because you don't know anything that happens after you give them the money.
No, you do. You do. You mentioned the term, Mike. You mentioned oversight. Yeah. That's what you do. You provide oversight.
Who's going to do that?
They report to you. How are you going to do it? To the council or to the economic development?
I don't think that's been happening.
Well, maybe it hasn't. But what I think we're mixing up what the different points are. Well, I agree with the oversight piece that you made. Mm-hmm. But why should the salary piece become part of that?
I didn't mention the salary.
Yeah, okay. All right, we agree. We agree then.
I didn't mention salary.
You mentioned oversight.
But I mentioned oversight.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not arguing against oversight. All I'm saying is that if, let's say that this piece goes to the economic development director. He has a pot of money, and I guess what you're suggesting is he makes the decisions or recommendations to the council who gets.
Well, what I was going to recommend is that he would take care of the small ones, but any substantial amount. I wanted to send it to the finance committee and come up with a policy and procedure on how we deal with this pool of money. And small ones he could sign off on, but anything over a certain amount would have to come to the finance committee and sign off on it.
Yeah, and then I don't disagree with it. I guess my argument is only against, let's not decide that salaries can't be part of anything. I mean, I don't care about the accountability piece. I'm just saying.
You are using taxpayer money.
Exactly. No, but you sometimes need people to run programs.
Well,
that's what they have fundraisers for.
No, Davey,
that's why you go out and raise funds for people. You shouldn't use taxpayers' money for salaries.
It sounds easy to do, but it doesn't always work.
David, we're talking about the Chamber of Commerce for the festival, funding that.
We're talking about
paying for that festival.
$79,000 split between a whole bunch of agencies. We're not talking about.
Yes, sir.
All right, Chris White again, and I won't be as loud and foolish as I'm supposed to be. I've spent about 20 years in the town of Cranberry Isles on the Municipal Advisory Commission, and one of the things that we end up every year is dealing with how much money do we give to Lifelight, how much money do we do to the Historical Society, all this stuff. My sense is what you guys ought to do is come up with a bundle of money, it looks like it might be pretty big, I don't know, that you're willing to say there's going to be delved out to things that need to happen, that are going on. And I suspect when I look at what's going on from Heart and Soul and whatever and all these other organizations, I think in the next few years you're going to see some of these organizations are going to die and there are going to be some new ones that get invented, and you've got to have a sum of money that's there to help people make things happen. And I don't think you need to get into the little nitty-gritty details of how much is going to be spent on salary and how much is and the hours that everybody, because one of the things that's happening today is it's getting more and more difficult to get volunteer help. But you have these 501c3s, you have these non-profit organizations, let them manage their money. You decide to them how much you're gonna have to work with. And you don't, you're councilman, you don't wanna get into the details of figuring out how they're spending their money. Are they doing the job that they say they're gonna do? That's fine. Then you check it off and say, that's good, next year we'll follow. If they don't, the next year, they ain't gonna get the money. And that's why you have an economic developer or a committee that serves with him that goes down through that list and makes recommendations to you. I don't think you guys should even be digging around with that kind of stuff. You've got different organizations that have goals and they have a mission. Do you agree with the mission or don't you? And you say, okay, this is what we're willing to pass you this year. And then if the next year comes along, if they've done a good job, then you look at it better. If they've done a bad job, you back off on it. You don't need to get into the details.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have one more question, David. How much can your economic director do? He seems pretty busy right now.
Yeah.
And you're talking about giving him a lot more responsibility and time consuming.
I don't see how many requests are going to come in. You know, he's our economic development director. We're paying him good salary to be our economic development director. He's supposed to develop Main Street. He should be working with the Main Street group, this senior resource group, the Chamber of Commerce. Basically, that's what we're paying him for. And I got faith that he can do the job.
Well, I just figured he's pretty busy right now. To add to that seems to be asking a lot. Just my.
Well, I'm going to make a proposal, and we'll vote on it, and we'll see where it goes from there. I'd like to make a proposal that we refer the funding of social and community services to the Finance Committee, with coming back for recommendation of how we funnel money to these organizations through the Economic Development Director. Do I have a second?
So how's that going to work with this budget?
Huh?
How does that work with this budget? They're going to
Have to meet before the next.
Because we're talking about funding it with the sales of the old town office.
Mm-hmm.
So that wouldn't be any additional tax funds this year.
So I'm trying to figure out what are we doing with this? All of these 22 requests, are those standing status, and then we're going to deal with the 58,000 we got from the sale as a separate entity?
Well, I think that's why I'm referring to the Finance Committee. They come back with a recommendation on how to go forward, or decide if they want to pay rate the way it is.
Oh, yeah. I missed a couple of these, but I'm looking here. We got $48,883 more this year requested than we did last year. Am I correct in saying that? Roughly 50 grand more. I mean, that's substantial to me.
I don't think there's enough time to make a decision on this list. Next, that they're starting at 5 o'clock for the next. Most of you two are already on the.
We're at 5.
Peter and Paul are already on the.
Let me just throw this out real quick. I haven't been here since I've been gone for the last 5 years when these have gone this distance. I'm looking at this as we have requests in for this year. We have an idea and a thought, and I mentioned it when the Chamber was here and Main Street and everybody else. We need to see some results. I mentioned that, I think, Paul, John Paul, wherever you went, and when the Chamber person. We're hearing all this stuff, but we're not seeing anything tangible. And when folks are coming in from, whether it's the child care folks, we're seeing what they're serving, but we haven't heard word one from these other agencies that are asking for a lot of money. I was just looking at the minutes from Main Street Bucksport. The last minutes that are on the website were from August of 17. You know, it's tough to be able to go forward with these things when we're sitting here trying to figure out, yes, we want to give you money, and we're hearing these things, but yet the results aren't there. And that's, I think, to your point, Rob, is I want to support these things, but I want to make sure that when we're supporting them, people are coming to us and showing us some results and things that are happening. And seriously, I just went on the website, and if I'm looking at 6 or 7 months ago with the last minutes, that's a hard pill to swallow when we're talking about all these good things that are being done. To that end, going forward, I think we need to look at the budget that we have in front of us. I don't think we have time to send this back to the Finance Committee, but I think we have to take a hard look at it, and we can decide what we want to fund for numbers here as a budget request. I'm personally, anybody that doesn't have an X by their name that didn't attend, I'm not going to give them a nickel. I'm tired of, I think we've talked about that, of folks that, I've talked about that every time I come here, that folks aren't showing up and asking for $30,000 is absolutely ludicrous.
Just to clarify, because there was a lot of discussion, my only disagreement necessarily with the proposal is that there's some, in the Finance Committee can come up with a recommendation, is that we dictate the details of what they can.
I don't want to micromanage somebody's agency. I absolutely don't.
It's not that I disagree with any
don't.
Oversight. It's not that I disagree with
Absolutely
maybe
not.
going.
And that was my argument a couple of weeks ago when they were here. We want to know what the money, and the people here want to know what's being done. I don't want to micromanage their funding. I don't want to make sure that it's going down that road. That is not our job. It is absolutely not our job.
Thanks. Mr. Mayor, in response to, what we've done, it's my understanding, I don't come to every council meeting, that someone from Main Street came at the end of the year and gave a 1917 annual report. Here's a copy of it.
I saw that, absolutely, yep.
Okay.
But that's once a year. And when we're talking about the amount of money that we're giving, and that's what I told the Chamber and both Main Street, we just like to have some updates every once in a while.
So how often would you like it for us to come to?
John, if I can get the minutes of the meetings, updated. I mean, people are out here looking at this, and if we're talking 6 or 7 months, we don't know what's going on. That, to me, those are little things. Do you agree on that? I mean, that's what I'm asking, because if we're looking to dole out this kind of money, we need to be able to say that, yes, these things are happening. Something is happening with that money instead of an 8 or 9 month where nobody knows.
Well, there was a film festival, there was a bridge.
I understand that, Mark. I'm just saying that the optics of it don't look really good. From where I sit.
I think what he's talking about is an easy fix.
Sure.
Minutes and people can see it. Everyone wants to see something. I think. Yeah.
And I think we've heard numerous times we want a vibrant Main Street, and we need to look at efforts that work towards that.
I'm glad to hear that you have seen this and looked at this. Because my understanding of what you said was you never hear anything from us.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. What I said when they came asking for money at the budget project, I said we want to make sure that we understand what your folks are doing. I need to see results. And that wasn't presented at that time. So.
And she did a good job on the end. As far as I'm concerned, she did a good job with that, and maybe just a little more frequency in the minutes and whatever.
I'm looking at $160,000 that I hate to just give money for the sake of giving money because people are here thinking that we give it every year. I'd much rather give money to the Y. I'd much rather give money to the child care folks, the folks, those type of things. If it's Main Street Bucksport and they're doing good things, then let's give them money. But we need to see those tangible results, and that's what people are looking for.
Diane Walsh from Eastern Area Agency on Aging. And I just heard a couple people say who was here and who wasn't marked off, and I was here to answer questions if anybody had any specific questions about our organization. Yes. I know we sent in a report every year, so.
Good thing you showed up tonight.
Another comment up back?
Bruce comment, and I agree with Peter. They didn't show up to present what they wanted. But now's the time, next year, we can put that in the application fee where you've got to show us what you've done last year for the town. And we won't have this discussion then. And they know they've got to prove what they did.
Thanks. You didn't get a second on the motion,
Nope,
Mr.
I guess
Mayor. What's the problem? Again, I apologize, I'm lost on, do we look at these two groups as a whole and decide here and then?
You decide by line item what number you want in these items.
How about
So-
only the line items that have an X next to them?
Well, the community agencies, the library, the snowmobile club is a pass-through of registration fees. They don't come, that's theirs.
Okay.
Fort Knox is the lights, that's the obligation. The chamber reduced their request, and the Bay Festival became a separate item for that. Memorial Day is Flowers Conservation Commission is. Those are things that you're not going to see someone come from. Those are.
And I think we were
us.
also looking at the 26,000 from Washington Hancock CAP that
I
in the past has
I
been
know you are.
1,500.
If I remember, they asked for that last year.
They did. They asked for more last year. They didn't get it, but
54.
the some of these under the social agencies, Bucksport Community Concerns, Down East Transportation is what funds your bus and taxi service. Transportation expansion, that $5,000 is a number that I included in the budget to expand public transportation through the bus and the taxi service in the coming year. We've got a grant application in for an area transportation plan, and that's implementation money. Eastern Area Agency on Aging just stood up. The Charles Care Center is, you've funded for many years. The Bucksport Healthy Communities Coalition is an increase over last year. Senior Citizens is an increase, but it's an increase that you approved during this year for the programs at the senior center. Went from when Sue Ann Craig came in and offered to reduce her hours so that they could have more money for programming. You funded the programming and kept her hours the same. Yesterday, Hospice of Hancock, we had a representative here, our health officer who's done that work for many years. Community Health and Counseling did not have an attendee.
WIC went up that much?
The request did. I think the request was higher. Last year you looked at the at these requests and you dropped back to fund prior year, with the exception of Life Flight, I think, which was more than it was in the prior year.
I'm going to make a motion that those that showed up, we honor their request. Those that were not here, we give the request that they got last year.
Say that again?
Those that were here with an M marked with an X
Right.
get the request that they asked for. Those that weren't, we give them the total that we gave them last year, because some have asked for, most of them have asked for an increase,
We do have ones that didn't ask for any last year.
and they're not going to get anything then.
Well,
And then
I think a couple of these should be reduced and not
That's fine.
even come close to where they were last year.
Make
So
an amendment
if
to my motion.
Pardon?
Make an amendment to my motion. Which ones are you talking about, Paul?
I'm talking about the chamber, that, again, having all these towns, and they've reduced their amount. I think it should go to 5,000 and let them go to the other towns to
My only
pick up those funds.
my only question on that, and again, we're asking things from them that we haven't seen in the past. Are they picking up an expense for a building that they didn't have last year because we supplied a building for them?
But that would be added to the request. Last year's request should have reflected that, because they got free rent.
Right, so I'm saying, if they dropped their request down, but in turn, are they picking up an expense, do we know, for the building?
Sure they
Yeah, they're going to pay rent.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, I guess I want to keep their request up a little bit to help them out a little bit.
I think we're actually, I think if on paper, or not on paper, but if they figured out now their expense, we probably are giving them closer to $5,000. Even though.
Because they were getting free rent, now they're gonna have to pay rent, but their request came, you see what I'm saying on that?
What they have to pay over there is all the utilities.
Okay.
That's what they have to pay.
Okay.
But that's what they paid at our building.
That's all I know.
Oh, so the payment is the same. Disregard my last statement.
It's no different.
Yeah, and the other one that I want to draw the attention to is, yes, I did resign from the Healthy Coalition, Bucksport Bay Healthy Coalition Community Coalition a couple of weeks ago. I joined them in September of 2016 and been with them for about a year and a half, and they did allow me to get on there, become a voting member on their board of trustees. Again, I already rattled off where their donations were coming from out of the 4 towns, but the model, I believe, is changing significantly. The Bucksport Region Healthy Community, Bucksport Regional Health Center is picking up patient assignments. Primary care physician and caseworkers are being assigned over there. There's actually, the group has done they've been working at this for 3-4 decades, and they certainly should be celebrating their accomplishments. They've done a lot of just incredible things, and now it's imagine if you had on this table 5 circles in front of you that are all interlinked together, and that includes the Y, the RSU, the health center, the community coalition, and their Thriving in Place partners. But what's happening out there today is the Y is picking up things, senior fitness, other recreational programs, shared use of the facilities. The regional RSU, Early Childhood Network, has gone from the coalition over to the RSU, Adult Education. You've got school health and doing meals for kids, for seniors, Meals on Wheels. The Regional Health Center now is dealing with health care, mental care, dental care, care coordinator, accountable care, urgent care, health educator, with the RSU for dental and wellness, seniors, peace of mind, social workers. There are financial issues. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but there are financial issues. And to that end, they've been working back and forth with the Office on Aging and Disability Services and Mental Health Access Foundation, MEHAP, as it's called, and so forth. But they've gotten to the point, they did go out and hire a consultant. She's just into her work now. It's going to be another couple months before they get results. I would like to suggest that we put a placeholder there for the Healthy Coalition, Bucksport Bay Healthy Coalition, and wait and have the results of the consultant, send that in writing to the town manager for review, and to take it from there. I'm not trying to be mean-spirited in this. It's just that the model, I believe, is changing. As I said earlier, we're looking now towards the direction of telemedicine. They've tried to be, they have been upfront saying, you know, what's going to happen next? What are the pros and cons going to be going through this? They're going through a development program, and again, the consultant, I believe, will craft a plan for them going forward. That could be going back to an advocacy group, going back to getting another director in place. There's a whole range of things that could come out of it. So I'm not saying not give them the money, but I'd say let's put a placeholder in there for now until a couple months goes by and we get the results back from the consultant. So my 2 cents.
So you mean allocate and approve the money but not release it until?
Yeah, or simply put a placeholder in that we know we're gonna give you money, but, you know, if they come back and say, maintain your 501(c), but disband the group and go to an all-volunteer section, all-volunteer group, then $15,000 would not be appropriate in my mind's eye.
20.
Well, 20. But, you know, if they come back and say, the consultant says, yes, it's viable, we have the following grant opportunities, blah, blah, whatever the circumstances would be, but I'd like to see the results back. It's a paid consultant. There are several $1,000s involved. The consultant came in, they're part of the, can't think of the name of the group. Anyway, it's well established in the industry, top shelf, and just my 2 cents.
You know, going forward, and we talked about having the form coming forward, you know, next year, have on the form, I think everybody's come here before and there's always gotten the money because they were never requested to come. I swallow my pride when I say I think if we change it next year that you know, going forward, have on that request, if you're going to ask for money, you've got to be present or it's not even going to be considered. If they're not here, I'm hard pressed to throw that rule at the 11th hour to try to make it happen if we haven't done it in the past, and these folks have in good faith we've done this in the past, and this is I think going forward I think we can fix our rules. I just, you know, I wouldn't feel right if we did that and they were always under the impression that it was going to happen.
Can we make that 26.8, 1,500? That really bothers me.
Yeah, that's what I said. Anybody that didn't show this year.
That one bothers me.
Would it be easier, Sue, just to go down by the line and put in
Yes,
the number?
It would.
Okay. So you read off what you got and we'll say.
The library at $14,000 has been that appropriation for a number of years.
Yes.
Can I vote on individual ones besides?
What?
I can vote on individual
Yes,
ones besides.
individual. You can't Main Street Parks, individual. Yeah. The Snowmobile Club, which is a pass-through and registration fees for trail maintenance. Fort Knox for the lights. The Chamber of Commerce at $9,000. The request last year was $13,000.
Do you have a recommendation at all? We had 9,000.
9,000 is what's in the is the request. The Bay Festival is $15,000.
That's down 25.
No, last year you appropriated $40,000 for the town's 225th birthday, and because in prior years you gave the chamber $13,000, $9,000 of which was for the chamber, and $4,000 of which was for fireworks for the Bucksport, for the Bay Festival. And so this year they stripped that $4,000 that they normally got for fireworks out of their request and reduced it to the $9,000 that they've traditionally gotten for the organization, and incorporated that $4,000 in the $15,000 that's been requested for the Bay Fest for that. So in essence, the request is to go from funding the Bay Festival at $4,000 for fireworks to $15,000. If that makes any sense? Because the $40,000 you did last year was the 225th anniversary. That was the premise that you funded that, because you also still funded the $4,000 for fireworks in the chamber's regular request. Where are we?
Did we vote on
Yeah,
that?
Memorial Day.
We haven't voted on it.
Okay, Memorial Day at $400, that's just flowers. That's Conservation Commission, yeah, that's their projects. Penobscot Consortium, that is dues to the Penobscot Cable Consortium, which is a regional group that the town coordinates, trying to negotiate its contract with Spectrum, and which is a...
Why is that in this category?
What's that? It's been here forever. I'm not quite sure, but this is where it was when I got here. And those dues that are paid, there's a sizable pot of money in the regional consortium account, and if you don't pay dues and stay in, you can walk away, but you don't get to take any of that with you. And it allows the town access to some of those funds for if something broke on our cable TV equipment. We can't get all new equipment, but we can get pieces of things for that. So while we work through this, I do recommend that we generally offset that cost with some of the franchise fee money that we get from cable that comes into the community in the amount of about $45,000. So
next year, can we put that in another?
Yeah, I'll move it. That's
quite
really
make sense
a
here.
budgetary expense. And then Main Street Bucksport at $20,000.
I'm going to say one more thing about this. There's people that have volunteered their time. Paula Key, for one. She has asked for no money at all from the town, and she's done a lot for Main Street with Wednesday on Main. This started out as a volunteer organization. There's a lot of others, the Senior Resource Group, they're a volunteer organization. The Town Council, we don't do it for money. We do it because we love our community. I think $20,000 for the Main Street organization to pay a executive director is a little high.
David, it's not true. That's not what's being said.
Huh?
That's not what...
I think that you're misrepresenting the facts. That's not, 20,000 isn't just to pay...
I mean, you're looking at it in one organization and
well,
not another.
Okay, but
Right.
$20,000 is an awful lot.
But you're giving $15,000 to a Bay Festival
I'm not
director.
disputing money, but to suggest that, to make a statement and say $20,000 to pay an executive director demeans the rest of the program is just, it's like it's, nothing except for paying a director.
I'm just telling you how I feel, that's all. I think it's a little bit too much. I mean, I've been on this council for 23 years, and we haven't got a single pay raise in 23 years, and I don't care because I love my community. I'm going to work for my community. Sometimes people have to do things as a volunteer.
David, people volunteer all over this town. You've been around long enough to know that there are tons of volunteers. I watched a group of them for 2 years, and it wouldn't have gotten done in whole had there not been somebody there. So, I mean, I'm not going to argue any more about it, but I just...
84.
Washington Hancock Community Action. It's here at 26.
1,500, please.
So we're voting on 1,500?
Bucksport Community Concerns, 4,500.
They didn't ask for anything, child and family.
That's
the child and family.
Down East Transportation. That's the bus and the taxi.
Yep.
They were not here, but
Right.
again, they shouldn't even be in a social agency. They're a service organization, and they provide a service where we see the ridership numbers every month in terms of what that is. The $5,000 expansion is my request for $5,000 to expand the public transportation and do some implementation with...
You got an X by your name. You were here, so we'll approve that one.
I was here. Eastern Area Agency on Aging has requested $2,500.
What was the reason for the increase? You're here. I'll let you talk for a minute.
We actually served more people in the town of Bucksport last year than we did the year before. We also, I don't know if you all know this, but we also provide van rides. We pay WHCA, and they provide van rides too. So we have some extra services that we provide in the town of Bucksport too, for people to get shopping trips back and forth to Bangor.
And I apologize if you've seen it. Have you given us numbers or anything?
We have, yeah. I sent that in. I have copies of it here.
That was on the report piece here, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
That's all I had.
The child care center is at $2,000.
I recommend 2,500.
Bucksport Bay Healthy Communities Coalition.
What did you say, Paul? I like what your answer. I
I said placeholder pending results of the consultant's work.
Looking for a vote?
You can always access funds from fund balance if you choose to do that within a few months after that. The senior citizens, which is the programming money for the senior center.
I'd like to up that to 6,000. We are well served with the folks that we have doing that, and I think anytime we can help those folks out, we're doing well. So,
How much did you say?
65 million.
6,000.
Remember, you're on video.
I'm telling Sue Ann. I'm telling Sue Ann.
6,000. Yesterday's children is a $300 request. There was no funding last year, and they did not come.
They didn't get anything last year?
No.
They didn't come?
All right, 0. We haven't seen them, so.
The Hospice of Hancock, 800, and we did have someone here, Val, she's sitting.
That's not 88 million either, all right?
Community Health and Counseling is requested 1,896. They did not get funded last year, and they did not come to the...
0.
The Emmaus Homeless Shelter, Life Flight got funded at 1,000 last year, is requesting 1,231 this year. They did get funded last year, and they did not attend this year.
1,000.
The Emmaus Homeless Shelter requested 2,000. They did not get funded last year, and they did not attend this year.
0.
Families First Community Center is requested 1,000. They did not attend. I'm sorry, I skipped WIC. Okay, yeah, WIC family. The WIC last year got 500. They requested 4,840. I believe they asked for more last year.
Yeah, they did 500, please.
Then Families First Community Center. They did not attend, and they did not get funded. They didn't make a request last year.
They didn't.
No, they didn't give me.
The Red Cross did not get funded. Has requested $300 this year.
And those last 4, look, are those just new requests that this is the first time they came in?
Those are new requests.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm fine with all 4 of them.
What's that?
I would say I'm fine with all 4.
With the understanding that this is a new request, so they're going to know next year they have to come. We're going to benefit of the doubt for the first time showing up.
So Families First was what? Leave it at 1,000 or?
Yeah.
Home Health Hospice at EMHS and the Health Equity Alliance for 500. Okay.
That's all they asked for. 7,000 last year.
May I suggest that we've funded this, but I think this would go more smoothly if you refer this subject to your finance committee to look at a policy for how you would distribute funds so that it is a less contentious discussion. You establish the rules for who can, how can, when, and what metrics are required in order to be considered in other years, and how you want to do that. So that it is a big number, and you want to make sure that everything that's distributed is a well thought out expenditure of taxpayer money, and the best way to be able to do that is to be able to really quantify impact. And we don't have a policy that deals with that. We just have a form that tells people how to apply, and that's not the same thing. Now that this is looking like this, I think that the mayor's idea is a good one, that finance needs to look at how the town does this and come back with a proposal that...
Can we do that meeting after next?
You can do it anytime you want to. I'm just suggesting that you've gone through these numbers to provide numbers, but I don't think we've solved the problem. And the problem being that we're reacting rather than proactively deciding how you want.
Well, and I think it's good to be proactive. I think it's good to do it for next year's budget.
Oh, that's what I'm suggesting, is that it clearly isn't going to happen right now, but I don't think that this should go away. I think that this should be a discussion that happens fairly soon, so that so number one, as we distribute this money this year, we let people know what our expectation is for accountability in terms of.
I agree with you too, because I've asked for money for years, and then we come and talk, and that's not the time to be telling you that, standing here and telling you all this, what we have on our paper, you don't have on yours. And I think that's a good idea, and if you ask for that, they will do it. If they care enough, because they are caring people, they'll do it.
So we'll schedule finance, the meeting after this one, in order to develop however the council wants to handle this. It may not look anything like this process at the end of it, but I think that it deserves a full discussion, as again, because this number ends up being, half as large as some of our departments are. So,
Just cut that sucker almost in half.
took a big lump off
We
it,
said
but
a long time ago.
anyway.
But you're right, there is a
okay,
better review
thank you.
process. Thank you.
You got a total number, or just?
No, I
everybody raise
don't.
their hands and
I
you go,
just
okay.
have these. The goal tonight is to get something so that at the next meeting, I know what numbers you wanted included on that
You
page
got
of the
enough,
budget.
you got enough yay on all the items, right?
Yeah.
And the bottom section of the other budget stuff that we talked about during the process, that will be included in
Yes.
the next one that we'll see.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go on, if everybody's all set with that, we'll go on to item B, overall budget review.
I provided for you sewer, marina, and general fund, the numbers that there have been some minor adjustments that were they were done during, there was an amount under recreation for a staffing related to a splash pad that hasn't been approved, so that I pulled that number out of that, of the rec funding proposal, because that's not going to happen this year, so it didn't need to be in there. There's a small adjustment that needs to be made in the custodian wages for the public safety building, because that 1.5% wasn't included on the budget. You'll see that number be slightly different, but when I say slightly, it's a little number, so it's insignificant. As it's proposed and as we've gone through the budget, it's possible to do this and maintain the mill rate at the same rate that it is.
And when we maintain the mill rate with the assessment, people's taxes are not going to go up, is that?
Well, some may.
Yeah.
And the reason is that, and the assessor will be in at the next meeting
Okay.
on the 31st to go over the reval with you, and what the fact of the matter is, some valuations in town have gone down. And so if you have a valuation that went down, the mill rate is the same, your tax is going to go down.
Right.
if you have property that's appreciated or hasn't been looked at in 30 years, and that hasn't happened. We don't have anything that's dramatic of that nature, but the assessor will be in to talk about what that impact is on.
46.
And I don't know if this is a good time, if this is the right place, and do we look at grabbing some of our money and helping out a little bit more? You know, pulling in a couple, $300,000 to lessen the load.
Well, what you don't want to do is reduce your mill rate in one year and have to raise it the next because it's not sustainable to do that over time. If you bring you can, that'll last for a few years, and then you will have dug a hole that you can't get
that's
out
why I'm
of.
asking the question.
But can you mitigate it? Yes. Can you? You know, even if you take a nickel off the mill rate, doesn't sound like much, but that ends up having an impact. What I won't recommend to you is that you make a big impact.
From 16 to 15 and back up.
Yeah, people can't live on a brainwave. People need predictability in real estate taxes. It's too big an expense to wildly wave on an annual basis.
And I guess my question was, if there's something that you can look at just to see if there is a
I
small
will. Now that
adjustment.
I
We got the number?
I got the number. I will bring you some proposals on what you can do if you choose.
Like I said, I wasn't here. Have we looked into the insurance part? And I apologize, I missed those.
No,
I was working nights, but-
my brain just died. The
Because it has to do with
contract,
health insurance.
the contract expires this year,
Okay,
and
Perfect.
so that's why we're.
that's an answer to my question. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you.
Peter, I'd be more inclined to, if you're going to use some of that undesignated surplus we have, that it goes into some type of an infrastructure program that would be here for years and years to go
Absolutely,
down the
yeah.
line.
I'm looking that we're going in the right direction, and if there's something we can do to help, absolutely, yeah, thank you.
Any other questions on that? If not, we're going to go on to item 16. We're going to go into executive session. I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. We may come out of executive session with an announcement. If you want to stay around.
It's already in the paper.
Huh?
They've already put the announcement in the paper.
Fake news. All right. We're out of executive session, and we have a recommendation. Mr. Carmichael?
This recommendation is to extend the town manager's contract 3 years from the existing contract. It's going to expire next year, right?
April 1, 2019.
And to raise her salary, cost of living raise of 1.5% with a longevity increase of 3%, for a total of 4.5%.
Second?
We have a second? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Next item is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes.
Congratulations, Mr. Clark.
Oh, okay. That's in the budget.
Yep, all set.